Good morning, students. A warm welcome to one and all. Hope that all of you are safe. Stay home, stay safe. To begin with our chapter 2, and the name is Self and Personality. Today we try to understand concept of self, self as a subject and self as object, kinds of self, cognitive and behavioral aspect of self, and last is culture and self. So let's begin with self and personality. See, self and personality is the only way in which we define our existence. Now, what is self? Self is, see, different people hold different ideas about themselves. These ideas represent the self of a person. For example, I'm beautiful, I'm ugly, I'm a dancer, and so on. Second is personality. In the same way, like different people hold different ideas about themselves, in the same way, different people behave in different ways in a given situation. For example, if a person behaves in a submissive manner in front of his boss, the same person would behave in an aggressive manner in front of his friends and in front of his family. So thus personality are reflected. So personalities are reflected in the diverse behavior of a person. Now next is concept of self. So we can describe ourselves by finding answer to the question, who am I? So whatever you are today, how it developed. That means how yourself developed. Who shapes ideas about yourself. That means whatever you are today, who shaped it and how you identify yourself. So a newly born child who has no idea of a self. As a child grows older, the ideas of self emerges and its formation begins. Awareness or existence of self begins as young as 2-3 month old child. For example, the child smiles and the someone smiles back, or the child touches a mobile and sees it move. So parents, friends, teachers and other significant persons play a vital role in shaping a child's ideas about self, or interaction with other people, or experiences and the meaning we give to them serve as the basis of our self. Having realized that he or she exists as a separate experiencing being, the child next becomes aware that he or she is also an object in the world, just as other objects which have properties that can be experienced, like big, small, short, smooth, and so on. Thus, he or she puts self into categories such as name, age, gender, like I'm a girl, I'm three. So this is the way person tries to identify himself firstly. Now, the attributes you have used for identification tell us about their personal as well as social or cultural identities. When a person describes himself or herself by telling his or her name, or his or her qualities or characteristics, or his or her potentialities or capabilities, or his or her beliefs, he or she disclosing his personal identity. Next, social identity. It refers to the social or cultural membership of a person within a group. When someone says that she or he is a Hindu or a Muslim, a Brahmin or an Adivasi or something like this, he or she is trying to indicate his or her social identity. So Self refers to the totality of an individual conscious experiences, ideas, thoughts, and feelings with regard to himself or herself. So let's look at the dual state of self. Self as a subject and self as an object. As a subject, it's about the actor you are, the doer, and the knower. That means if I say I'm good dancer, that is about the actor I am or the subject of the self. The other is the object, the consequences, the known or the thoughts and the feelings. If I say I got hurt, that is something which is an object, feeling, consequences, the known. Let's move on to the next kinds of self. Now, self has two major kinds: personal self, social self. Personal self lays emphasis on those aspects of life that are only concerned to the person. For example, personal freedom, personal responsibility, personal achievement, personal comforts in relation to himself. Next is social, familiar, or relational self. We may use three names for the same concepts. The emphasis is here on social aspects of life. For example, cooperation, unity, attachment with other people, compromising for other people, and sharing for other people. Let's move on to the cognitive and behavioral aspect of life. Now, cognitive aspects include two concepts here. It talks about self-concept and it talks about self-esteem. A self-concept is basically the image that I carry about myself. I am a good poet, I am good at maths, I am good at sports, I am average at the other areas. That is self-concept. The other is self-esteem. Esteem basically means your worthiness. Do I value myself? Do I think I'm capable? Do I think I'm good at something? So my judgment about my own self is known as self-esteem. Now, this develops in four different areas. It talks about social competence, cognitive competence, physical appearance, and physical competence. So there are four areas in which it starts developing right from 7 years of age. How does it develop? Now parenting is very important role. Here, suppose the parents try and intervene in the way the child studies or the time child devoted to play with his friends. Normally children don't like it, but at the same time intervention is restricted when they criticize the child, when they reject the child, when they pass comments on the child. So well, the intention of the parents are perfectly fine, but because they want to improve the child, but that may not be the natural style of the child, and leaves its impact on the psyche of the child. The child believes what the parent says. The child believes what the important people for him or her says about the child. Parent says you cannot do it. The child believes it true. So this is where the role of the parenting develops self-esteem. Next, a concept which comes in the behavioral aspect, the actual behavior, self-efficacy and self-regulation. Now, there was a great psychologist, great behaviorist, Albert Bandura. He has given this concept of self-efficacy. Meaning thereby, do I think I can control the situation? Do I think I'm effective? What do I think about my abilities to do a task? For example, a girl who doesn't really study much, but when she is asked questions, she has the thought that I can definitely answer. That means the ability to think, I can. So this is the thought about whether you are effective, whether you will be handle those situation or not. This is self-efficacy. Next concept here is self-regulation. Now this concept when we talk about basically means I'm able to regulate my behavior. Now this has four parts. This is how you develop self-regulation by instructing yourself, self-instruction, by rewarding yourself, that is self-reinforcement. Suppose I am able to read the full chapter today, so I reward myself the next day. That is self-reinforcement. Next is obviously you have to observe your own behavior also. Also only then you would be able to regulate it. Culture and self. We talk about the Indian perspective and the Western perspective. Indian perspective, we have a collectivistic culture where boundary between individual and people are not fixed, not separated. So both exist in harmonious coexistence. This is where myself develops from my cultural influence. Western perspective, if I want to achieve, if I want to succeed in life, I want my fun. If I want to have my choices in life, so I don't want others person to intervene in my life. This is Western perspective, where you as a person and your society, your culture or people around you is a clear demarcation.